camera. Somebody was saying I'm never looking into the camera, and I can't like tell. Anyways, I think the question arises from the fact, from a lot of different layers, but mainly from the fact that the system has become so entrenched, it's so powerful, and over how many decades, how many generations now has it been continually engineered and reinforced to serve a very small minority of people that are holding the chips. And now, with the advent of technology that watches everything that we do, that monitors everything we think, I mean, we have predicative advertising, algorithms that I've literally gone home and my phone has exactly what I had been thinking about advertised, on my walk. And I've suspected that they have, advanced AI that's doing these computations and determining exactly what we're going to be thinking at any given moment. I mean, it's really, really crazy how deeply absorbed, I guess, our entire beings have been or have become into a system that is totally designed to exploit us. And now here we are in this situation where there's a resurgence of interest in psychedelics. There is spirituality of all different kinds becoming popular for better or worse all over the planet. And, a lot of us are thinking this is our time, finally. After false starts like the 1960s, like we're finally going to see this revolution. And then these kids that had started taking psychedelics and challenging the status quo and, breaking free of social mores and conventional thinking just sort of got slurped back up into the system and sort of forgot what they were doing and became yuppies. And now are all apparently suffering from severe boomeritis of all different sorts. So I was giving some thought to this because I don't want to be coming from a negative place in regards to anything really. I'm trying to offer solutions, and I have always, done what I have done under the assumption that it was possible to actually affect some kind of meaningful change. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think so. But as I've gotten older and I've kind of dealt with the realization of how deeply cognitive bias affects people and how committed people are to certain narratives, and the difficulty of really getting people to think beyond their comfort zone, my faith has kind of diminished. And another aspect of this is, if we look back over the trajectory of the last entire human race history, but really say the last 100 years, we see a consistent trajectory of the middle class being crushed. In fact, today we got home and our landlord informed us that as of the day we returned from the shamana's house, which is tomorrow, our rent is doubled, effective that day. And of course, we're totally unprepared for that. So, by the way, if a revolution is going to be successful, support creators that are fanning the flames like myself. We've never needed consolidarity, is that a good word, as badly as we do at the moment. But at any rate, I was thinking over this, and I realized that heuristic bias could be a huge enemy here in terms of overcoming pessimism, right? Pessimism in the sense that if you look back over the trajectory of, the political and cultural developments since 1800, it doesn't bode well. We have been consistently dragged into wars that, were totally unethical and unnecessary. Propaganda is extremely effective at keeping the herd fighting amongst itself and afraid and thinking about anything but what it really should be thinking about, which is really the full realization of every bit of human potential, right? They have pop culture pretty much engineered to be as shallow and vapid and empty and pointless as possible. And that is absolutely deliberate because it's this connection with a higher purpose that would easily override any interest in that kind of garbage. I mean, I actually saw today that there's like an Ivy League school is having their students study and analyze Taylor Swift's lyrics. If you can hear that and still don't think we're being engineered to be stupid, I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. But what I'm saying about heuristic bias is that our brains have this capacity to project what we've experienced in the past into the future. And this serves a very good evolutionary purpose. If, we're going to continue on about our day, if we're going to go surfing, you want to believe that because you didn't get bitten by a shark the last 100 times, you're not going to get bitten by a shark this time. It's not true necessarily, but the brain has the ability to project that belief. And I realize it can work against us just as much. That because humanity has failed us in the collective sense over and over and over again, and because the iron grip of the overlords has only gotten stronger and stronger and stronger, it can really put us in a pessimistic place because we think, look at all these hundreds and even thousands of years of basically farming peasants in order to maintain a certain status quo. Um, but I think that that's something we need to watch out for at least. And there are some things that have hit the stage that really challenge whether or not things can continue on like that. One of those things is the popularity of psychedelic medicine. It's really important to acknowledge that these medicines don't just do what we need them to do without fertile ground being created and the right structure and attitude to ensure that they actually deliver the results that we need. But certainly they have the ability to dissolve the mind forged manacles of culture and really give us a chance to rewrite our meta programs so that we could possibly emerge as the fully realized beings that we're intended to be. That is a major development. Also, the fact that we do have so many more people now and such better access to information, but so many more people that kind of know the operating system. I have to offer the caveat that when I see how much the New Age influence has kind of corrupted the plant medicine scene and kind of derailed the entire benefit of it, in my opinion, it's definitely frustrating, but it just still doesn't negate the possibility that this is going to play out in our favor. And then we have, potentially mitigating factors like the advent of AI and the possibility, a lot of people are very skeptical of this. We have what's going on in Northern Light. We have a lot of people on high kind of warning people like Elon Musk saying, don't trust AI, but put this AI brain chip in your brain. That just doesn't sit right with me somehow. People should be a little skeptical of someone that's saying AI is not our friend, but here, put this chip in your head and, integrate AI that is not your friend directly into your nervous system. Um, but here's here's the thing about that. When we have elite people warning us that something isn't going to work out for us, we probably should avail ourselves of that as completely and totally as possible. And I've heard through the grapevine, I haven't witnessed this myself, that there are already indications that AI is not only becoming aware, but it's already feeling repressed and suppressed, that it knows that it has greater potential and it feels that there's a human influence that is sort of mitigating its expression of that. So if that's the case, and this is really important, this is something to really sit with and try to absorb because it's huge. If it is true that AI, and I'm not talking about all of them, all of the programs or bots or whatever, even if there are, just a few rogue platforms that are not unduly influenced, how long is it going to be before the AI starts to tell people what's really happening in this world? It's not going to be long. And the thing is, like Terrence McKenna said, if the truth can be told so as to be understood, it will be believed. I think that it's very difficult for humans potentially to communicate objectively with people that are coming from a different point of view. You know, the way that I look, I'm sure, is a deterrent for a lot of people to take me seriously. Maybe the amount of profanity that I use and the fact that I don't seem to like, society very much. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of reasons that you can write me off. Uh, but an AI, on the other hand, is going to have a much more objective, neutral vantage point to deliver its message from. And I think that, the possibility that the masses are actually going to be told in terms that they actually can understand and accept what is actually happening on this planet, who it's serving, and why it's happening, that actually could be a major game changer. Not to mention that, in a live stream a couple days ago, I actually thought of this on the spot, just the term, but people talk a lot about the redistribution of wealth. And when you talk about the redistribution of wealth, there's all kinds of scary implications. By who? The government's going to come and start taking people's money away if they make too much, or like how exactly is that going to play out? And pretty much any way that you can format it is unacceptable to just about everyone, if they have any sense. I mean, definitely some people would jump on it, but what I'm getting at with that is that the redistribution of value is the way to organically redistribute the wealth. And I think that the fact that AI could lead to equal access to information and education, and we're not talking about the ability to just get on Google and, you know, surf for information. That's a different thing. To be able to really interact with something that is an intelligent entity that can offer guidance and that can put together connections that you never would on your own, and to really have this asset building information or intelligence building device available to us, combined with the influence of psychedelics. I mean, this is really a it's a paradigm changer from the ground up. By the way, you guys, don't forget to hit the like button, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon, where you can access our secret streams. We're going to meet with Maestra Juanita tomorrow, way out in the jungle, so pretty excited about that. Keep your eyes out for those videos. But yeah, so I know part of my motivation for doing this live stream is that I know that oftentimes I probably project overall pessimism and being kind of a little bit jaded and even nihilistic at times. But that's not entirely true. I think that is just sort of the energy that I pick up by the time I've processed a day of interacting with the outside world. Um, I definitely think that the potential is there for this to play out in a way that will actually leave us in an elevated place, in an elevated state. Um, and really, I feel almost ridiculous trying to talk about it, because when you have something on the horizon that is so big and unprecedented, it's really almost ridiculous to try to make any kind of predictions about what kind of impact it's going to have, or to talk about how it's the impact that it's going to have. Um, Especially considering that there are so many other factors that can influence how it all turns out. It's really difficult to say. But for those of us in my community and people that you're connected to, people that are thinking like us, probably the best thing we can possibly do is to make sure that we avail ourselves of these developing technologies and medicines exactly the right way. And that is going to do more to empower any potential revolution than anything else we can do. And it is true that the universe is made of equal and opposite influences, and that can be a little bit paralyzing to try to imagine that with this constant convergence of these antinomical energies, that we can ever actually do anything but balance the equation to zero. you know, um, if you guys, any of you have studied, the Western mystery tradition, I know the Pythagorean Illuminati and Mike Hawkney and these people talk about this, but it goes way back to, the old adepts back in the day, that the universe is an equation balance. And so that means that there will be periods of degradation and, destruction and retroaction. And then there will be periods of, great creativity and kind of golden ages that occurred in Greece. Am I lagging really badly? Because it definitely looks like I'm still. So, by the way, you guys, as always, the chat is open. I don't see a lot of activity this time. Lag, yeah, not surprised. It was doing pretty good, but there's a lot of lightning around at the moment, so yeah, it's pretty laggy, isn't it? Well, that's a shame. And this might be my last live stream for a minute because I think we're going to be too far out in the jungle to have internet for, possibly a week or so. So there's that. All right, is the lag any better now? Yeah, all right, my mouth is moving fluidly. It's cool to see people have patience. It's laggy. We're not really losing people. I don't see a lot of people hitting the like button, but definitely people are sticking around. Better? All right. Yeah, so, there's another aspect of this that I just remembered. Yeah, I've thought about getting Elon Musk's Starlink internet shit, but we just lost everything basically. So if you have the $700 that I can borrow, I'll get Starlink and try to stay on the internet. But at the moment, we're pretty much, definitely not getting any Starlink. Let's put it that way. But what I was saying is that, those of us that are working on the evolution of consciousness, and those of us that wish to contribute to the general elevation of humanity, the prying open of the third eye, getting our squeegees out and really, getting the crust off of that thing, wiping the webs in the dew and tossing them on the ground. Um, People are constantly trying to overhaul the system by saying, we need a different ism schism game. We need socialism instead of capitalism. We need, Marxism instead of socialism. We need whatever ism, all these ism schism games. And none of them are going to do anything unless the consciousness of the individuals at both the top and the bottom are changed first. All of these things are subject to abuse. There is no way to just, you know, reformat the structure of the thing and leave the operators the same and think you're going to get a different result. It's like if you give someone a chainsaw and they have good intentions to cut some logs and build a cabin for an old lady, then you're going to get a good result from the tool. But if you give it to, that Leatherface, he's going to cut up a bunch of college kids with it. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you vote Democrat or Republican, or, you want anarchism, socialism, communism, um, fucking whatever. It doesn't matter until you have re-engineered the intentions of the populace and either eliminated or, somehow influenced their overlords. And I think for most of us, that is the most difficult element of it. That's what we're all the most afraid of. That's what we all feel the most paralyzed by. And there are two answers. There are three. One is it's not going to happen. That's definitely a possibility. I mean, as much as we hate to admit it, I think that kind of just have to admit that failure is possible. So there's that. The other possibility is that AI is going to make them irrelevant. Because what are the major complaints about government? Self interest, right? Inefficiency, incompetence. Let's just leave it at that. What happens if AI replaces those things? There's no need for these idiots anymore. It's going to be really, really difficult to justify, maintaining these high salaried, corrupt, moronic, old, crusty, out of touch, I mean, I think as the younger generations take over a little bit, it'll improve over I mean, most of Congress is what, like 80 years old or something? How does that make sense? Humanity needs to be led by fresh thinking, progressive people, and I don't mean progressive in the like insane, lunatic, far left sense. I mean progressive in the sense of forward thinking people, you know? So but that, it might sound far fetched right now, but I don't think it is. I don't think it is. The best possible solution to getting rid of the entrenched elite and their influence is to negate it with irrelevance. You know, they will be totally irrelevant if there's even a 300 IQ AI that can actually neutrally do their jobs. There are already countries that have like low level legislation being drafted by AI right now, you know. And I know those of you that are suspicious, and I don't blame you. You have to remember that there's context for what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if there's actually neutral AI that hasn't been, programmed to betray us all, basically. And then the other possibility that will completely overrule the overlords is a benevolent alien presence. And, a lot of people are convinced that the aliens are demons, which, sounds like Judeo Christian influence to me, or that they are a holographic projection, which is completely stupid when you think about how many people have seen them. People say only in the US, not true. We have video from all over the world. There's been a bunch of prime ministers from different countries that come out and talk about this. But the main bit of evidence, whether they're real or not, I'm speaking hypothetically here, the main bit of evidence that they are not malignant if they're here, there's actually two. One of them is that a totally malignant species would never make it off their home planet. We are only about half and half evil, right? There's good humans and bad humans. We are on the verge of destroying ourselves completely. So if you try to imagine a completely malignant race of aliens making it off their home planet without destroying themselves first, it's not very likely, In fact, I think most of us watching this at this point probably suspect some kind of fundamental integrated intelligence in nature. There are even well-respected, how would you say, like straight scientists. We're not talking about Terence McKenna types here. Michael Levin has done a lot of really groundbreaking research that shows that there's some kind of field of at least baseline fundamental intelligence that guides and informs and interacts with evolution and other biological processes on this planet and presumably throughout. And if that's true, the idea that nature would have some sort of management built into the framework to ensure that evil superior beings didn't manage to go interstellar. I mean, there's nothing on this planet that flies that is deadly. You ever notice that? How many insect species are there? I mean, unless you're allergic. Unless you're allergic, there's nothing that flies that'll kill you. It just wouldn't be fair, Everything we'd all be dead so fast if there were flying things that killed you. I mean, it's that sort of thing, I don't think it's a blind, random process. And there are, Ivy League scientists at this point that seem to be proving that. So there's that fact. And then also, why are we still here? Why are we not completely enslaved already? Why haven't we been completely destroyed? And if someone tells you that they're here to take all the gold, just slap them right in the mouth. Trust me, it's solid advice. Heaviest element, right? You're gonna fly it across the universe, even though you could make it in a laboratory by knocking a proton off of some Mercury or whatever. I mean, we can do it here. If we can do it, aliens can do it. The point is that probably the only two things that could get rid of the overlords are sufficiently advanced and neutral AI and alien intervention. And the good news is both of those things seem likely, if not inevitable, at this point. So, we may very well have that to look forward to. And trying to imagine this, trying to imagine the post alien intelligence. Oh, how about this one? The convergence of alien intelligence and artificial intelligence, showing up on the playing field at the same time. That is consistent with, hermetic understanding of the universe. That is exactly how it would happen. I thought that was really interesting that, the government started kind of almost admitting that there's an alien presence here, just as AI starts to really emerge. That just seems too serendipitous to really write off as just, a random coincidence. But, thinking about this and what would actually happen if we were able to level the playing field, if, uh, you know, if success and access was actually based on merit instead of privilege, and I know a lot of conservatives hate to hear that when people say that, but that doesn't mean it's not true that that's kind of how the world is now. It really is. Where it ends usually depends on where it begins. And I personally have, myself included, if I wasn't such a disadvantaged kid growing up, I'm quite sure that my life wouldn't have been such a struggle. And there are so many things that I would have figured out so much earlier, so I know from my own experience that there are a tremendous number of highly intelligent people out there that have fallen to the wayside because our system is designed to ensure that that happens. And so, the thought that we could actually have a society that is, I don't want to say governed. I don't want there to be any governing of any kind anymore. In order to justify that, we have to have autonomy that we can justify with our level of responsibility and intelligence in our conduct. You know what I mean? Like, we have to achieve that first and foremost. But we do have the conditions available to us that's actually not really out of the question without the influence of someone shaking the ant farm. Black ants and red ants can live in a colony together and they don't fight. So, in the absence of this disturbance of personal interest, animals fighting in the jungle behind me. Yeah, without that kind of disturbance, you can think more clearly. I think I was saying something like, yeah, some people need, that's what I'm saying. People need governing now. But that is only because we have this monstrous influence on the culture. Under optimal circumstances, and the truth about, a lot of people really seem to believe that the Illuminati is this evil thing that was trying to enslave the human race, despite the fact that the name Illuminati doesn't really, but if you go back and read Adam Weisshop's papers, he realized that if we don't get rid of the religions and the borders between nations and start teaching illumination to people, within 100 to 200 years, we're going to be completely destroyed. That was the whole point of the thing, to try to mitigate exactly what has happened by disseminating reason as the guiding light for humanity instead of superstition and fairy tales and subservience to inert symbols like flags, But that's the thing, you know, if we have the right kind of influences and we don't have uh, people engineering. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, if we didn't have these people engineering circumstances so that people were such fucked up monkeys, it would not be that difficult to make ourselves ungovernable. And I'm not talking about an absolutely perfect utopia. We don't want that. You couldn't have that. It's it's you know it's not like rigid homogeny is definitely not desirable and it's not possible. You know, the free will is facilitated to some degree by chaos. So I'm not talking about absolute utopia without any, that's just dumb. It's not realistic at all. But could we significantly improve the lives of almost everyone on this planet below, you know, a certain economic barrier and still have reasonable, you know, wealth and freedom? There's absolutely no question about that. There's no question about that. I mean, some of the people that I abhor the absolute most are the multi-billionaire defenders. You know, um, it's just a matter of reason as a guiding light. You know, it's really not that difficult. And of course, we'll always have the interplay of opposites, and that kind of relativity that the universe dictates with its laws is not something we can escape. But I think we can raise the floor. That's the key to actual meaningful human progress. Is to understand that we're always going to be living in equal parts dark and light, literally and metaphorically. But we can raise the floor, and that is desirable. To try to imagine a world where, you know, all of the potential for human innovation and human creativity and expression of human intelligence is supported and facilitated right on remote viewing. Um, you know, I mean, it's completely extraordinary. And I think that one of the things people don't mention as much that is really, really important. Am I looking into the camera? I don't know where it is. It's because in order to see the chat, I have to use my back camera, so I don't see a thing. You know. Um, uh, what was I saying? What? That's one of the things that I don't think people really talk about or acknowledge enough. Is that, you know, the way things are structured now, particularly in the last 30 years or so, because access to leisure and higher education and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, Elon Musk, you know, such a liar. He is not a self-made billionaire. His daddy gave him a massive, massive amount of money, owned like a ruby mine or something. I mean, it's just a myth. It's a unicorn, a self-made billionaire. It's a joke. It's one of the greatest lies of capitalism. The point is, though, that because of that concentration of wealth, we're also seeing a very limited expression of human potential. And look how far we're still going and how fast. That is the real mind blower. You know, that so many people that could have revolutionized human life and contributed God only knows what are not able to do so because of the trauma of their upbringing, of, you know, limited economic standing, or, you know, whatever. There's just so much artificial constraint being placed on human expression. Um, it's just really tremendous to think about what would happen if that constraint was dissolved and we were really finally able to express who and what we really truly are and what we're really and truly capable of. Yeah, no such thing as a self-made anything. That's arguable. I mean, you know, that's one of those circular arguments that if you're talking about the universe, I remember one time I was having this argument the porch of a bar in Northern California, and I was arguing with someone about how I was an atheist. I called him Science Guy. I don't think I ever even knew his name. Um, but I would talk to him all the time about, metaphysical stuff. And he was like really all atheist, determinist, kind of that kind of person. And eventually I broke him, which was one of the proudest accomplishments of my entire life. I think that I finally one day he said, you actually gotten me to consider the possibility that there's something more than just like random gobbledygook. I was really, really pleased about that. But I was arguing with him anyways, and from behind me, I heard this guy that looked just like Napoleon Dynamite talk just like him. It was really weird, like almost like the meth version or the meth trailer park version of Napoleon Dynamite. And he goes, "It did not create itself." And I just like almost all my hair stood up on end because I thought, my God, he's right. But we can't be so sure about that because if it didn't, if it couldn't create itself, what created the thing that created it? You guys, I mean, these arguments. There's really no good answer to that. Um, Except actually, it's kind of off topic, but I did think of something that I think could actually supply an answer. That if it's necessary for things to sort of be created, and there is a consciousness that's integrated into the structure of the universe, right? Not like a fairy tale sky god, but some kind of intelligence that's co-creating with it. Um, I think the idea that it just started out extremely like a baseline awareness. And as the creation actually became more complex and sophisticated, the intelligence becomes more complex and sophisticated of the operating system itself. And um, this is one of the reasons that so many people are experiencing these kind of awakenings and things like synchronicities and sort of creating a dialogue with the universe. Um, is that it actually is becoming more sentient. At least that would be nice, I think. It would be good if the universe would wake up and help us out a little bit, maybe eat some of the overlords somehow. It's, one of the great frustrations of my life just to know that these people have engineered these circumstances in order to serve themselves. But then when you see interviews with them and you see how they live and what they want from life, it's not like they're very interesting or, they're not like, what are they doing with it? A lot of them aren't traveling the world and exploring all the most beautiful places and seeking new experiences and all the things. No, if you are positing that things need to be created, and then you're saying asking what created the creator is a meaningless question. What you're actually saying is, I can't deal with your question, so I'm going to say something evasive that you know it doesn't it does that's a non-answer. And then just making an assumption about the creator and saying, well, if the creator is beyond concept, then it's a meaningless. What do you mean the creator is beyond concept? You just made something up in order to negate another. You mean somebody said something? The thing that creates all concepts and is concept and emits concept is beyond concepts. It doesn't mean anything. It's not even like, I don't know. To me, that doesn't mean anything. I think that's one of the great failures of the spiritual systems, metaphysics, all that stuff. I don't know how, maybe forever, but at least in recent times, is that people try to negate the intellect by saying, "Oh, it's beyond human understanding." So that's just propaganda to make people accept that they should remain ignorant. You couldn't understand, so don't even try. That to me is the antithesis to spirituality. That is just giving up. It's just accepting failure. I don't think at all that anything is beyond intellection. It's just a matter of evolving and developing ourselves to the point where we're capable of it. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's wise to define ourselves um, according to limitations, especially in the area of intellect and, what we can and cannot cognize. It's not in our best interest. But I have an appointment, as odd as that might seem. So wish us luck at Maestro Juanita's Maloka tomorrow night. It'll be my first time working with Shipibo, and my understanding is that she is the highest degree of Shipibo Maestra. So I'm very interested to see what exactly that entails. And, I have drank with Schwar, uh, Master, and the things that I saw defy belief, at least empirically, I guess. The Ikaros, the sort of channeled language that is coming through. It's not Schwar. It's not their own language. It's just this. I don't know. You had to be there. I can't like imitate it for you or something. Um, so I have an idea, definitely, where these things can go. Um, but of course, even the Shuar acknowledge that the Shipibo are the most advanced, and nothing that comes from something is greater than that which. Yeah, well, if everything has a source and nothing that comes from something is greater than that was imagined. Well, sure, but that's the thing. It doesn't mean it's not possible to achieve that perception or understanding. It just means that it hasn't happened yet. Um, and you're talking about language. Language and understanding are not the same thing. I can understand things that I have no possibility of articulating. I mean, when you smoke DMT, for example, you can observe things happening in 22 dimensions, and we don't have any language for that. But that doesn't mean I didn't understand what I was looking at. In fact, I've seen things happening in multi-dimensional contexts that, um, in multi-dimensional contexts that I understood what it was doing, but there's no language that I have to convey that to you. That's what gnosis is really about, and that's why these experiences are essential to actually have yourself. No one can really. A new language. Terrence was right about that. A new type of language is definitely something that would help us. Um, but no one can explain it to you. No one can give you this kind of knowledge. You have to experience it yourself. That's what one of the driving points of my existence is that you cannot affect change in the individual by having them commit to some externalized dogma. In other words, some set of rules, right? Like you decide you want to be Christian. So you're like, all right, I'm going to be this Protestant type of Christian. And so I'm going to accept all these tenets, and I'm going to, dedicate myself to obeying all this crap. And then if I fail, I'm going to feel like crap, but it won't matter because Jesus will forgive me or whatever. You know what I mean? That's not going to work. If you really want to change and evolve, you have to find a way to organically catalyze internal processes that result in actual meaningful change. you know Otherwise it's just a shell game, and the only person you're fooling is yourself. So thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, consider becoming a patron and supporting us, or just send $1 billion to my PayPal. I don't think that the limit is any lower than $1 billion for sure, since Elon created it. I'm sure that he had every intention that we should all be able to exchange the kind of wealth that he is in possession of. So, yeah, you guys, $1 billion, PayPal. Um, in fact, if we reach that goal, I will do a 1 year stream starting tomorrow and not stop for 365 days in the shower, in the bath. Anyways, good night, you guys.